harness,
Do you want to grab then the stuff in his mailbox?
Yeah, I'll just put it on his.
Hi there.
Get anything ladies think?
Oh, because I haven't been here.
Phone right
We'll tell you. This regular city council meeting of the 36th Oak Park City Council is called to order December 21st, 7 p.m. First, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Ed Norris, please call the roll.
Mayor
Here.
McClellan.
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Speech.
Here.
Councilmember Radner. Councilmember Rich.
Here.
We have a quorum. Councilmember Radner is out of town at a brother-in-law's wedding, I believe. So congratulations to the family. Next, entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Next, we have the consent agenda, and I would like you to just look at item J. There is a date typo. Item J is request to schedule a public hearing on January, it should say 19th, and that's what it says on the document. So just correct that typo. Consent agenda are routine items that are presented as a single item for council approval with no discussion. Would any council member wish to drop one of these items from the blanket motion? If not, I hear no request. Then the consent agenda is special council meeting minutes of December 7th, 2015, regular council meeting minutes of the same date, library board of directors meeting minutes of October 20th, 2015, request approval for budgeted payment of $40,500 to Riemann Robson for audit work performed for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015. E, request approval for Clemis agreement for IT services and to authorize the city manager to sign the agreement on behalf of the city. Item F, payment of invoices from Orchard, Hiltz, and McClimate OHM for water reservoir pumping station improvements, traffic signal design, and Oak Park Boulevard and Lincoln rehabilitation in the total amount of $54,656.75. G, payment application number 1 for the 2015-16 miscellaneous concrete repair project M621 to Mattioli Cement Company, LLC, in the total amount of $58,867.73. Item H, change order number 1 in the amount of $21,034.60, and payment application number 1 in the amount of $258,757.20 to Instaform Technology USA for the 2014 sewer lining project M588. There's a request to cancel the December 22nd, 2015 regularly scheduled Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. J, request to schedule a public hearing on January 19th, 2016 to hear comments on the proposed Corridor Improvement Authority development and TIF plans. K, Public Safety Activity Summary Report for November 2015. Licenses, new and renewals, as submitted for December 21st, 2015. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Speech.
Yes.
Okay, I don't see visiting elected officials. We do have special recognition and presentations. Officer Mason Samborski gave his life serving the city of Oak Park, and every year we have a remembrance in his honor. Our Director of Public Safety will lead this discussion.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. December 28th will mark the 7-year anniversary of the line of duty death of Oak Park Public Safety Officer Mason Samborski. Officer Samborski was killed in the line of duty following events of a traffic stop at 10 Mile Road in Greenfield on December 28, 2008. Each year at this time, we pause to remember the ultimate sacrifice made by Officer Samborski. Today, as we pay honor to our fallen brother on this 21st day of December, let us be mindful that Mason's family lost a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. Mason was a dedicated public safety officer and a fine man in every respect. With the ever-increasing challenges that law enforcement officers across this country face on a daily basis, I feel it appropriate to also recognize and thank the officers who work on a continuous basis and serve Oak Park as public safety officers. Our uniformed officers are the first to respond to every call for help and who put themselves in harm's way every day to maintain order and to keep the citizens of Oak Park safe. We are grateful for their unwavering dedication to that duty. This year so far, 119 officers across the United States have lost their lives in the line of duty. Every year during the Law Enforcement Week in Washington, D.C., thousands of law enforcement officers, families, and friends from across this great nation gather to remember, honor, and pay respect to those officers. I have often heard that the public safety profession is one in which few would choose, but one which we all depend on. We are forever grateful and indebted to our fallen heroes. Tonight, on behalf of the men and women of the Public Safety Department, I offer our tribute to the memory of Officer Mason Samborski, and we honor him for his sacrifice. I would ask that if we could pause for a moment of silence at this point in recognition and memory of Officer Mason Samborski. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We all remember the day that this happened. This is the one job that just going to work means putting your life on the line for your community. We thank each and every one of you for your dedication and your service. Now, City Manager Tungate is going to do our employee recognition.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. I have the honor of making a recommendation for my choice as Employee of the Month to Greg Childs. And Greg works in our Department of Technical and Planning. And without further ado, I'd like to ask our Director of that department, Rob Barrett, to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. We're very proud to nominate Greg Childs as our Employee of the Month. He hasn't been here but since August, and in that short time, he's made a strong impact on the city of Oak Park. Greg has a very good demeanor and way of talking to people, and he resolves a lot of our code enforcement actions through communications rather than notices and tickets. That goes a long way. Greg has great empathy for seniors or people with low incomes. And one thing that really came to the forefront, which I told Eric, and that's where we really pushed it over the edge, is nominate him for the Employee of the Month, is we had a complaint of a dilapidated shed in a senior's backyard. Well, Greg took the call, went out there, and upon taking that call, he met with the guy and was just overwhelmed with how bad off this guy was. He had no resources to take care of this. He had no family, and he was stuck. And he was too old to take care of himself. Without informing me, the following weekend, Greg lets me know that last weekend he met with a Boy Scout troop. I'm gonna get their name out there. Boy Scout Troop 1927 out of Warren. He met with them, brought him out to this senior resident's house and took down the shed for him on his own time, and Greg was part of that team that did the work. briefly, is Greg's been working on a project for me for boarded up houses and, businesses. The project he's taken care of is he got the, glass back up and the boards down at Livernois Auto Glass, public storage on 8 Mile, and about to be fit on 9 Mile, and he's currently working with the Maradai Church on Oak Park Boulevard to clean up that overgrown brush and the windows there. In my opinion, the code inspectors are, everyday heroes. They hear the complaints, both ways. We'll hear it from one neighbor that we're not doing anything to get that house cleaned up, and then we'll give a notice, go to talk to that neighbor, and they really don't feel like we should mind our own business and get out of there. So they do get it all around. So, Mayor, Council, City Manager, I'd like to thank you again for your support for, code enforcement, and the rental programs. It's very important. I'm very proud to introduce to you Code Enforcement Officer Greg Childs.
Just want to thank Eric and the council and my boss Rob for recommending me for this award. But everybody in our department works 100% every day, and it's just an honor to get this award. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, and if you wouldn't mind, I want to have a photo session here with City Council, but I also just wanted to piggyback on some of the things Director Barrett said, and really just talk about your demeanor and your communication, because those two things go such a long way, especially in the code division, where we all know that in the effort to beautify our city, it's not always pleasant. And, you know, those efforts are not unnoticed, and I think this award is the least that I could do in recognizing that. So keep up the good work, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think the idea of being community-friendly and not just leaving notices, but talking to people about the issues means that they have a better feeling about our city government because of you and because of the way you conduct yourself. So I appreciate that so much, and probably the number one thing that people complained to me about was blight. And it's the other guy's blight, though, not my blight. That's the trouble. But you're the ones that are holding up our community standards and keeping Oak Park the kind of community we want to be. So thank you, and we'll all convene down in front for a photo op.
Sure, I couldn't find, I don't know how to work it. We have no public hearings. Communications. I thought I would just share, Linda Rogers came in to our water department,
And being a worker in the water department is kind of like being a worker in the airport's lost luggage department. No one wants to be there. And no one's happy to be there either. So here is her comment: very pleased with the water department, very informative. Steve, who works there, has been there forever and knows everything there is to know about the water department, and is probably more flexible than other cities as far as this goes. Consistently gives super service. Anyway, thank you to Linda Rogers for taking the time to write that note. Special licenses, item 10A. 10A is a special event request is submitted by Congregation Aish, 25725 Coolidge, Oak Park, Michigan, for an annual membership fundraising event to be held on January 23rd, 2016. We need a motion to approve the special special event request.
So moved.
Okay, and we have a second. Then we can discuss that.
Second.
Second. Then I don't see a request for a waiver of fees, is there? No, there is a copy of a check for $100. It's not a policy, it's just been historically what we've done is, if it's a nonprofit and it's open to the public, we waive the fee, the $100 fee. If it's a nonprofit just for a closed group, then we collect the fee, and if it's not a nonprofit, we collect the fee. That's just how it's been done for many years. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 11A, accounting reports. Approval for payment of invoices submitted by Garen Lukow Miller, PC, for legal services in the total amount of $15,965.93. A motion to approve this payment, please.
So moved.
Support.
Moved in support. Mayor Pro Tem, a question or comment?
Yeah, it's not 15,000, it's 1,500.
Oh, thank you.
$1,581,
Let's see. 1,500, let's see.
so a total of 1,685.
Wait a minute, let's double check. Let's go to City Attorney Ebony Duff.
The stated amount is correct on the agenda. There are 3 separate invoices, just for point of clarification. There's the one monthly invoice for retainer services, and then there are also 2 litigated cases that are referenced on the separate invoices, the Tina Polk Newton versus City of Oak Park matter, and the Kish Bannon versus City of Oak Park matter.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Got it.
yep, separate.
Okay.
Separate.
Any other questions or discussion?
No.
Roll call vote, please.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Speech,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item 11B, approval for payment of an invoice submitted by Howard L. Schiffman, PC, for legal services retainer for January 1st, 2016 through March 31st, 2016, in the total amount of $15,000. Just for the new people, we pay this invoice ahead, a quarter ahead. Motion to approve the payment, please.
So moved. Support.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Speech,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes, motion carried. We are down to section 14 on the agenda. City Attorney Ebony Duff.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. I have 2 requests for you this evening on the agenda. They are both with respect to tentative settlement agreements that have been reached in 2 tax tribunal matters. The first that's before you is under MTT docket number 14001-780. This appeal is for 2 tax years at issue. It's 2014 and 2015. The subject property is the neighborhood shopping center located on Greenfield, south of the I-696 Service Drive, commonly known as the Royal Plaza Shops. These three parcels comprise a total of 27,200 square feet of retail building space. We provided details from the original petition. The petitioner was seeking a reduction in the assessment for both tax years at issue. After some discussion and negotiation with our assessor, we did come up with the values that are stated in the stipulation. Just for your notice, the reduction in the city taxes for 2014 will amount to approximately $850, and there is an approximate reduction of $1,065 for the 2015 tax year. Again, when we look at these cases and consider the merits of considering, continuing with an appeal, we do believe that this settlement as proposed is in the best interest of the city. The petitioners agreed to waive any applicable interest and fees on this approximate $1,800. And if it meets with your approval, I'd ask for your authority to sign off on the proposed settlement terms.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the consent judgment.
So moved?
Support.
Moved and supported. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Speech,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes,
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. The second item I'm requesting approval is for the Michigan Tax Tribunal docket number 15001-047. This property is a 13.15 acre shopping parcel located on the southeast corner of Coolidge and I-696. This is commonly known as the Parkwoods Plaza Center. It totals 149,336 square feet of retail space. Our primary issue, this is only an appeal with respect to the 2015 tax year, and our primary issue there is that they have not been able to secure a tenant since Farm Fresh vacated that property. That caused a significant loss of income for the shopping center. They did produce the rental rates and information for their existing tenants. And once we had an opportunity to look at that information, we did tentatively agree to a settlement that will result in a reduction of the 2015 taxes of approximately $10,260. Again, they've agreed to waive any applicable interest. We do believe this is in line with other shopping centers, even similar to the one we just resolved on Greenfield as far as the square footage and the rental rates. And we do believe that this settlement is in the best interest of the city.
Any discussion or, let's see, we don't have a motion.
So moved?
Support.
Support, a discussion or questions on this one? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes,
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Speech.
Yes.
motion carried. City Manager Tungate, please discuss our information technology proposal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. The proposal for IT services from Singson Corporation in front of you is a proposal that would be in effect for up to 1 year with a 30-day termination clause. The cost is not to exceed $11,920 a month, and that actually should be corrected to say in total based on 160 hours of a systems administrator on site. And as you look in the proposal on the very last page, you will see that for the itemized services provided, which would be approximately 160 hours of work, they're estimating the cost to be about $8,320. And if you combine that with the per month fee, that would be the $11,920. So when the itemized work is completed, then we would move into the monthly fee on a go-forward basis of $3,600 a month. Funding is available in Fund 101-12-258 for this expenditure.
Sorry, motion to approve the Singson Corporation proposal.
So moved.
Support?
Moved and supported. Discussion or questions? Councilmember Speech.
Yes, I'd like to know, what does this contract, does it replace anything that the city already has had in place, or is it something new?
City Manager Tungate.
Councilmember Speech, this is a the proposal outlines, IT services that we just lost. We lost an individual in our IT department, and this replaces those services. It actually goes a step further than that, and again, in the itemized list on the last page, not only will it provide a everyday management of that department, it'll take us through the transition phase, provide IT support and systems administration, and user support for existing level 1 help desk, security audit and analysis, inventory and analysis, vendor management and assessment, process documentation, and a needs analysis for IT staffing. Those are things that have been needed for a very long time, as the department was in a tremendous amount of disarray.
Council member speech.
Okay, the other question I had was, is this, so I know the name of it is Sing Sun Corporation, but is this an individual that's gonna be providing the service, or is this a corporation that provides additional employees when necessary?
Councilmember Speech, this is a corporation that has 2 individuals that will be providing these services. The primary individual will be spearheading the oversight of the itemized list I just mentioned, but it's possible that going forward, should we decide to keep this keep this firm in place, that other individuals will come in on a day-to-day basis and, maybe man the help desk, for example.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
Please, council member, speech.
So the person that we replaced here, we're replacing it with with a company, and will they have will there be someone on site to manage, or are we expecting another employee to do that?
There will be 1 of 2 people on site here to manage the department.
Okay.
But, just as an aside, many cities of our size obviously are outsourcing their IT function. This is what I would consider outsourcing, although, the good news is we have a firm, a very experienced firm in these areas, and, it's 2 individuals, with a primary individual who owns the company as well, so.
Okay. Any questions?
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
How did we come across this corporation? Was it referred to us by someone, or?
Yes, and Mayor Pro Tem, it was based on a referral, and also the uniqueness of the services they provide. This individual, without getting into some of the personnel issues, this individual and his firm provides IT audit services as well. And so, obviously on an emergency basis, when we didn't have staff in that department, those services were necessary.
Did we check references of prior companies they've worked for, or prior cities?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just a question, what is enterprise software and why do we want it?
Wow. That's a great question. I'm gonna have to refer to Matt Brandemark back there. He's probably.
He's a little busy.
We want it.
We can Google it.
Matt,
later.
yeah, I was gonna say, Madam Mayor, I think I might have to get back with you on that one.
Okay, will do,
You've
that's
exceeded
fine.
my level of expertise by 10.
I do have one
Not a
other question,
problem.
Madam Mayor.
We have one more question.
One more question, council member speech.
Yes, City Manager Tungate, I know we've made a number of system changes, here at the city. So is this individual going to are they already aware of them or knowledgeable of them, or are they gonna be up to speed by the time I'm trying to understand, are we gonna be switching system because they're coming into place, or are they going to use what we have and what our employees have already gotten used to?
Councilmember Speech, members of council, we'll pretty much use the exact same systems, and as you know, obviously, the financial services software system we just
Right.
purchased and is now fully implemented. But we still will be using an Outlook system, and I think, especially from council's perspective, there are gonna be a tremendous amount of enhancements, little things that I, of course, not being a techie myself, that I look forward to, voicemails to email, for example, or being able to get on your email remotely without having to do that crazy login thing that we do. So a whole bunch of those things. In addition to that, some of the day-to-day, just as an aside again, but some of the day-to-day, we're trying to find more server space. And what we've identified is that the server that we have, that we've paid for, has a tremendous amount more space than we realized it had. And just some other basic things. And as time goes on, I'll illustrate those in more detail. But, we're still in that first phase of just trying to get things back together in the department.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Ready for a vote then? Roll call, please.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich, Yes. Councilmember Speech,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item 15B.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I'd like to call Director Maroney, our Community and Economic Development Director, to the podium to help me out with 15.
Thank you, City Manager Tungate. So in front of you is a proposal for professional services to continue working on, can you not hear me? Sorry, is that better? The 9 Mile Road conceptual plans and traffic analysis. If you remember, back a few months ago, we received a grant and had the Congress for New Urbanism in, meeting with residents and council members to discuss future plans for the 9 Mile corridor. And they took those plans, or those ideas from residents and council members and business owners and put them into a strategic plan for us to do a road diet along 9 Mile and add in some streetscape elements that will also help us to create a sense of place here in Oak Park, which we lack currently. So a sense of place for Oak Parkers would be a place that they would want to congregate and spend their time in and give them a sense of pride, something that if you get the people congregating in, then also sparks that economic development because businesses will want to follow that as well. So we have been working with OHM in the past on many other projects, and we consulted with them to come in and give us a few ideas based on the report that CNU gave to us. So we want to continue working with them, explore some of the options that they gave us in order to do the conversion on 9 Mile Road. Excuse me. So the proposal in front of you is asking that City Council approve us to hire Orchard Hills and McClemick, otherwise known as OHM, to perform the conceptual design of the roadway and public space improvements along 9 Mile Road and Greenfield to Pinecrest, to be approved by an hourly, not to exceed amount of $57,500 upon final review of the city attorney's office, and the funding is in the major street fund for this expenditure.
Madam Mayor, members of council, if I could just further elaborate, this is a, just to clarify, this is a proposal to study what our options for 9 Mile Road would be. And again, this gets back, as Director Maroney mentioned, to the Center for New Urbanism study, but also to our economic development strategic planning process where this sort of thing in this corridor was identified, and also supported by the Corridor Improvement Authority, might I add. You're very familiar with OHM. We've done a tremendous amount of work. In fact, they're the firm that has been retained to install the new traffic lights all the way along 9 Mile Road.
Wonderful. Oh, let's see. So we need a motion to approve this proposal.
Approved?
Let's see. We need, support? Got support? Questions and discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
I just want to be clear. So OHM is taking the ideas that we gathered a couple of months ago for that 2-day seminar, and they are going to provide us with an actual plan and design of what our suggestions would be.
Yes, they're going to take it a little step further and do a thorough traffic analysis to make sure that some of the suggestions that the CNU had brought to us are actually feasible based on the traffic patterns in Oak Park.
Okay, it also says on here, deliverables, a hand-drawn plan view, rendering, a character image board, and meeting with city staff. So that's a hard copy of what is going to be a little miniature model thing.
Correct. That'll allow us to do town hall meetings to keep the public informed and then also to include them in our grant application.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Councilmember Speech.
Is there any way that we can include some type of a digital media, like a PowerPoint or PDF, so that we can put something online as well? I know they have renderings already, so could they offer something like that to us?
We can create it ourselves. We can take their renderings and then create something that we can put online for our residents.
Yeah, because, well, I would like that to be something in the deliverables that they offer, that they provide that,
They could do it at an additional cost.
Okay.
If we could do it in-house, though, I would suggest letting us do it and not spend the money.
Questions? Councilmember Ken Rich.
Just a few
questions about the funding for this. I'm a little confused. At one point, you mentioned there's some federal funds that we got from a grant, and then the summary mentions that the funding is gonna come from the major street fund for this expenditure. How much of the funding is coming from a grant, and how much of the funding will be coming, if you will, from the city's general fund? Or am I totally confused, it's coming from a separate fund?
So in all of the grants that are available to us, engineering costs are not covered as part of it. This in front of you right now is just for engineering costs, so that is coming out of our funding. So we don't know exact amounts that will be in the future. It'll be based on the project. So once we know what the project exactly looks like, we can get estimates for costs and give you what will come out of general fund and what will be grant funded. But right now, all of these engineering fees are out of our general fund budget under the major streets.
And the potential grant funding for the project is how much?
They don't really have caps, they're all project-based, and they're graded based on many different elements. So we apply through MDOT and SEMCOG typically to get that grant funding.
Have we been approved, pre-approved?
We've had pre-meetings with them, and they like the idea and the concept that we're going with. It'll all depend on what our final design looks like and the amount of grant funding that's available at that time.
Do you anticipate that the grant funding will cover us? What percentage of the project do you anticipate being covered by the grant funding?
MDOT has told us that they typically like to fund a project that is 30% matched by the city and 70% would be funded through the grant.
And then the approximate cost, if it's all approved, any ballpark?
I have no ballpark at this point. It'll all depend on what the final project looks like. And that's why we're doing the engineering study, so that we'll have those numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Comments? Roll call vote then for this contract, for the conceptual design of the roadway and public space improvements along 9 Mile Road.
Councilmember Rich?
Yes.
Councilmember Speech?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns?
Yes.
Mayor McClellan?
Yes, motion carried.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I'd like to ask our Finance Director, Carl Johnson, to join me at the podium for 15C and for 15D, please.
Right before that, I wonder if City Manager Tungate would speak to, like, why are we doing this? Why are we fixing up 9 Mile Road anyway? It's been like this for a long time. Just a little bit to put it in perspective.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'll just give you my 2 cents. The whole purpose of the Center for New Urbanism Study, among other things that we've done, is to improve the quality of life in our city and improve the sense of place in our city. And when you look at, and again, this is my 2 cents, but when you look at our community from the perspective of a region of about 5 million people or so, you can quickly see that there's an ocean of opportunity in terms of, where do you go for dinner? Where do you go to ride your bike and those kinds of things? And what we are trying to do is in line with council's goals to make our community more bike-friendly, make our community more pedestrian-friendly, make our community more friendly to businesses, open up our doors to sidewalk cafes. A lot of these things have happened over the last 3.5 years that I've been here. And this is just the next step, albeit maybe the biggest step in reconfiguring our main thoroughfare, one of our main thoroughfares, that if you look at it strictly from an engineering perspective and a quality of life and sense of place perspective, is really overbuilt. There are, I think, about 9,000 cars a day, give or take, I think, that go back and forth on 9 Mile Road. And we have 5 lanes of street there for 9,000 cars a day. And obviously, it's way overbuilt, and pedestrian is put very much behind the automobile. It's not to say we're not going to honor vehicles traveling through this corridor, but it is to say that pedestrians come first in our community, and obviously, again, the sense of place and quality of life amenities are the kinds of things that not only do our residents look for, but also visitors and relatives, etc.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Fun accounting stuff now. They keep me to the end because I talk too much and, it's accounting. How exciting can it be, right? First off is 15C, which is the quarterly investment report. So I don't believe you've gotten any of these recently. So this would be new, so I want to take a little bit of time and explain what it is and why you're getting it, et cetera. So Public Act 213 of 2007 required the finance people, the treasurer, to do certain things. And I've included the act, it's on the last 2 pages of the handout here. It's really quite simple. As treasurers started to invest, they required the investment managers that we contract with to know and understand our investment policy. So we had there's the new requirement under this act to send them our investment policy. They are to acknowledge the investment policy. Again, this kind of falls under the open government that our governor is really high on. It's just to let everybody know and let them know what our investment policy is so that they ensure when they recommend investments to us that they comply with our investment policy. And in addition to that, the very last item in this requirement is to let you know as the governing body what exactly we are investing in as the city, and me in particular as your treasurer. So if you look on page 2, the report is just a statement of what our cash and investments are as of September 30, 2015. In quick summary, we had cash in Huntington Investments of about $8.5 million. We had some bonds totaling about $2.5 million, some municipal bonds, so the first one was federal bonds, municipal bonds of, again, about $2.2 million, certificates of deposit about $727,000, and investments in the Oakland County investment pool of about $15 million. So this is, and in my cover memo, I go into a little bit of detail. This is new for the city as far as the investment strategy. I came on board the last week in July, and really the city had been in a very, very ultra-conservative investment mode, primarily because of the financial conditions since 2008. Our financial condition, as our city manager continues to point out, and as I continue to preach as well, is we're in very good financial condition, very solid financial condition. Our overall cash was about $16.5 million citywide at June 30, 2014, 15, if I get my fiscal years right, sorry. At the end of our fiscal year that just ended, there was about $16.5 million citywide. Our investment strategy at the time was just to go into 30-day, 60-day, 90-day commercial paper, which earns about 0.4, 0.5% interest. Our checking account had about $8.5 million in it, earning 0.15 interest, and that was about it. We had no long-term investments. Nothing went out more than 180 days. And overall, our interest earnings on all of our money on the $16.5 million was about $25,000 for the year ended June 30, 2015. So a very small amount. So by looking out and doing it on a cash flow basis, which is what I like to do, so looking out at our 3-year budget to determine exactly where we think we're gonna spend our money, how much we're gonna spend it in what areas. As we know, we have fund balance reserves. When we talk about fund balance, a lot of that is cash that's available to us to invest in a longer term basis. Our water and sewer funds have reserves as well that are meant to be long-term reserves. So this allows us to invest out a little more. And if you look at the investment statement, by investing out a little more, the $8.5 million in cash, we were earning 0.15% interest on that money. By going into government securities and municipal bonds, our interest rate return jumps up to about 1.718, and in some of those, we're actually getting almost 2.7% interest on millions of dollars, on $2.5 million. So it jumps our overall rate of return or interest return from about $25,000 a year to about $150,000 a year, so about 6-fold. So it's a change, and again, we've consolidated all of our money and we're pooling it so that, again, we can maximize this for not only the funds that have the money, but every single fund of the city, whether they have $100,000 or $5 million, will actually share in the overall earnings of these funds. So all this is for your information. You will be getting these quarterly from me, and you'll see the next one. I just want to point out, as of December, as we sit here today, we only have $1.5 million in our checkbook, rather than the $8 million there. And we have about $23.4 million in investments. So again, this was just the start of really getting us invested like we should be and maximize our return overall for the city. So this is just for your information. Be happy to answer any questions anyone might have on it.
Any questions from city council members? Sounds like going from earning $25,000 to earning $150,000 is rather good news for the city.
Makes me very happy, for sure. So,
Madam Mayor, thank you.
City Manager Tungate.
Council members, I just wanted to point out real quickly that the the quarterly investment reports that you see, the one you see here, the first one you see here, will correspond with our quarterly financial reports that you'll be receiving. Our next one is coming up. When is the date?
well, our December 31st quarter will end, and so our goal is to have that to you by the second meeting in January, so. So you'll get this at the same time with that each and every quarter.
The Oakland County Investment Pool, is that relatively liquid money?
Yes, it's 100% liquid, so if I called up today, they would wire me however much money I wanted out of it tomorrow. Again,
So-
it's a really good investment, just as an example, the rate of return, so keep in mind, we made $25,000 last year. I transferred $15 million there on September 30. As of November 30, I have $15,026,877. So in 2 months, we've earned $26,000 just by utilizing that investment pool. The interest rate return has been over 1.1% for the past 2 months. So it's very liquid. And again, why do we have so much money in there? We get all our tax money up front, dump it all in there, and by utilizing this pool, it allows me to transfer $3 or $4 million each and every month as we draw down throughout the year, and that'll ultimately get down to zero. But at least it allows us for our short-term money to maximize our return rather than the 0.15% we're earning in the bank to more than 1%, almost 5 times what we would earn if we just left it in our checkbook. So it's a very handy investment instrument.
Any comments or questions? No. Thank you. It sounds like great news. Keep it up.
I could talk forever, so that's a good thing. Love talking about finances. So the second one is actually a formality. This is our quarterly, our actual quarter, or I'm sorry, not quarterly. It's our investment policy. And so before you, I'm requesting an amendment to the policy. So what you have is the first 4 pages of this are really our policy, and the last page is really just a lot of definitions. It really just states that we are going to invest the money prudently in only what we're allowed to invest in. And again, what we're allowed to invest in, I think it's worth talking about for a minute. The state of Michigan mandates under Public Act 20 that we only invest in items that we are at no risk of losing principal. So I can't take that $20 million that we talked about and put it in the stock market because it's at risk of losing principal. I can only invest it in, there's a half dozen items here, and in Appendix A is the actual Public Act 20. Appendix A of this is the word-for-word Public Act 20 of what we can invest in. So there's only about a dozen items or so that we can invest in, municipal bonds, federal bonds, commercial paper, CDs, et cetera. They all have to be of the top of the highest, 3 highest grades. The municipal bonds can only be in Michigan investments of the highest grades, et cetera. So it's very, very restrictive because, again, what they don't want is your treasurer's investing in this in the stock market and all of a sudden, oops, it went down and we have no money to make payroll. So it's very, very restrictive. The investments that you had in the policy are all compliant with that act. And again, all our investment act really says is we will follow that with obviously security being the first and foremost in mind as far as when we make our investments, and then it goes down the line as far as maximizing a return, et cetera. The biggest part of the investment policy is it says annually the treasurer is supposed to review the list of authorized institutions, to update it, to review them to make sure that they're all still creditworthy. If you recall, 10, 15 years ago, we had the bank collapse issue. So we're supposed to be reviewing those types of things, reviewing the investment companies, et cetera. So in Appendix B is really an update of the authorized institutions that we can have our money in, whether it's a bank or other. So we use a lot of investment managers, Comerica Securities, Huntington Bank, D.A. Davidson, J.P. Morgan Chase. We use a lot of third-party investment companies to help us purchase these investments. So this is an update of that list. Our investment policy was created in 1994, updated only once in 1998. So it was long overdue for an update. And again, the update's primarily in Appendix B as far as who we can invest in and an update of what our authorized institutions are. The rest of it's pretty much boilerplate language from where we were in the past. So I would ask for a formal amendment of our investment policy to match the one that's attached.
So we are amending.
Yes, this amends our existing investment policy, last amended in June 1st, 1998.
So we first need a motion to amend Oak Park's investment policy.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Then we need questions. On the document that we have, it's not clear what was there before and what's new. You know, the new language isn't in red or anything.
Right.
And so if you could just point out to us what's new, what's different?
Like I said, there's very little changes in pages 1 through 3. So like in section 2 where it says scope, it was just updated for the types of funds that we have. You know, so we added an OPEB fund since then and some other funds as well. So the scope has been updated. Part 1 doesn't change. The prudence, again, you know, it's pretty much boilerplate. Section 4, the investment objectives is the same. Delegation of authority, ethics, all of those are the same. Section 7 there about Appendix B, you know, again, it just references to Appendix B. Section 8, Public Act 20 is the authorized, the allowable instruments. Pooling of cash, that's still just like it was before. Accounting controls. So a lot of it, it was literally just words, you know, just minor tweaking of words as opposed to no material substance change. And I'll remember in the future to add both copies for you, so, just so that you can actually see the differences.
Councilmember Speech, did you have a question?
Yes, question. Actually, I'm gonna make an amendment, but I first want to thank you because you've done such a thorough job, with the first part. I didn't get to comment before, but I want to thank you about that. And I was gonna ask you, how do you choose, you know, what you're investing in and what limits you? So this second part helps me to understand that. But if you would, I'm gonna make an amendment to my, motion. Can I do that during discussion?
Yes.
I'm looking at the clerk to make sure I say it right.
Clerk, amending the motion?
I want to amend the motion to read, that actually, I want to make a motion that we hold off on this until we get the older version and the new version and can compare, and then make suggestions from that.
Is there a time limit on this that,
Nope, not at all.
not at all? Councilmember Rich.
I think the correct parliamentary procedure would be a motion to indefinitely postpone, something I would support too. I'd like to see the old version and the new version in some way with a red line or with even bold on the appropriate verbiage, and perhaps we can bring this up at the next council meeting. It's probably all appropriate, but it'll be easier for us if we can see the little words, the little tweaks, okay?
So what is your motion to?
Well, we had a motion by Councilwoman Speech.
To postpone until we get the
postpone.
red line
And I would
and the
second that.
original, and he's seconding it.
Vote on the, all in favor of this amendment to postpone?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we will just, at the next meeting, get the copy that way.
Will do.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, that completes the city manager report, but I wanted to wish all of our residents, our employees, and all of you a happy holidays. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have call to the audience. Please give us your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. It's a quiet group. Okay. After that, we go to call to council. Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Okay. Just want to give a brief update on some of the things that occurred in the recycling committee meeting and an update on some of the events. The Halloween Boo Bash that occurred on October 31st was a great success. We had over 1,500 attendees. The children really enjoyed themselves, so that was a successful event. Also, the entire city council has been invited to take a tour of the SACRA facility by Claire Gallad with the Huntington Woods Department of Public Works. So she has extended that invitation to the entire city council and city administration. I think that's something that we should look into.
Is there a date on that, or?
Whenever we call,
Okay.
it's an open invitation.
Okay.
Also would like to mention that we had a suggestion for a joint cleanup project with Oak Park and Huntington Woods have been suggested for April the 17th, 2016. And on April the 18th, we will be having our Healthy Lawn Seminar. We had one last year. It was very successful and well attended by the residents of Oak Park, and our proposed date is April the 18th. Also, on April the 23rd of 2016, we will have our electronic recycling event. We've had two in the past. They've been very, very successful. So we're going to have, start off 2016 with an additional electronic recycling event.
Do you have a date on that one?
April the 23rd, 2016. The time has not been confirmed, but normally they go from 9 until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. As we get closer to that day, I will confirm a time for everyone. Also, everyone have a very happy holiday. And please be careful and wrap up. Our Michigan weather is now starting to become its regular self, without the snow, of course.
Thank you. Councilmember Speech.
Yes, well, first I'll give you my updates. The Beautification Commission had their last meeting of the year, on Tuesday. They had their meeting, and then they had their annual holiday party at Outback. This year they chose Outback. They choose different restaurants, so, Outback was their last, meeting, and they're going to be starting up again in February. If you remember, the Beautifications Commission does not meet every month, and the meetings, for all commissions will be on the new calendar, which I'm excited is coming out soon. I'm also on the Communications Commission, and that was a lively meeting. We met on the 14th. We welcomed Desmond Travis as a new commissioner. He's actually been to 2 meetings so far, but this was the meeting that all of the commissioners were there. And they are looking forward with working with the communications director. She has a new title now, but I always forget, Director DeSantis. I always forget the full title, but she's been awesome with that commission, and they're looking forward to helping Oak Parkers, helping understand what Oak Parkers need and how we should communicate to Oak Parkers, what's going on here in the city, what's going on with businesses and residents. And so look for great things out of them. They meet in 2016, their new meeting date is going to be on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. It had been different before, I believe. So it's gonna be on the 3rd Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock throughout the whole year of 2016. That also will be on the meeting, on the calendar. And just as a personal note, I want to wish everyone that celebrates it a Merry, Merry Christmas, because that is one of my favorite holidays, Christmas, and it's in 4 days. So, just wish you all the love and joy of the season. I know there's a number of celebrations coming up. Kwanzaa, I celebrate that as well. And so just looking forward to happy times with loved ones, and I just wish you all Happy New Year as well, because I won't see you before then.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Kenridge.
Thank you all for coming. Have a good night.
Thank you. I went to the Woman Officials Network breakfast, and there met a woman who is the chief of police in Auburn Hills, Doreen Okno, I believe, and was fascinated to learn that even though what you watch on television, all the police do is solve crimes, actually that is something like 20 to 30% of their time. They are resolving other kinds of issues, talking to residents, calming things down, finding places for needy people. There is a lot going on in our public safety department, and I will be writing more on that on the newsletter that I send out. It was fascinating. We'd like to again thank Public Safety for putting their lives on the line for us. Every day they go to work is an act of courage. First, best wishes to all of us who celebrated Hanukkah, we're full of latkes and we lit a lot of candles. Our Hindu friends have celebrated Diwali with candle lighting and dancing. Muslim friends are celebrating the birth of the Prophet over the next week. And other friends are ready to sing carols and decorate trees and celebrate Christmas. All of us like driving around and seeing the lights. All groups light candles in this darkest of all times of the year to illuminate the dark. Light symbolizes hope, and may we, all of our hopes be fulfilled in the coming year. Thank you, good night, and have a safe holiday.
Happy holidays.
Happy.